All right, and welcome back to the final segment of Intentional Grounding Episode 2. I am, once again, Costavianis, one of your three co-hosts with Mike Woodard and Tyler Spittle. So, and if you tuned in to the previous segment, we got a little dark and sad and, serious.
We got like Underworld. And now we're going to like the Lego Movie.
Yeah. No, we went like from like Old Yeller to Lego.
The Lego Movie. Yeah, exactly. Everything is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for the copyright strike now, Mike.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think we can put this on YouTube now because Mike just sang a licensed song.
Now, on to NFL talk.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a parody. There, we covered it.
Well, we're gonna talk about something a little more, fun and interesting. So with it being, with it being the month of March, even though NFL free agency and the pro days and all this anticipation leading up to the NFL draft is all great and entertaining and enjoyable for us big football fans, the month of March is dominated by college basketball.
See, I was right.
Yeah, and the NCAA tournament. And because of that, everyone and their mother needs to have their own sort of like March Madness bracket.
Just so it can be busted within the first week of the tournament.
And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about.
No more.
To keep up with their annual tradition, I guess, Tyler had pointed out to us previously that this has been going on for like the last couple of years, where around March, the NFL released their greatest of whatever all time bracket. The first one was greatest Super Bowl team? Or was it...
2 years ago,
which one came first?
Well, 2 years ago, it was greatest Super Bowl team.
Greatest Super Bowl teams, greatest...
And then last year was greatest uniform. And now this year, they're just going straight up greatest quarterback
Greatest
of all time.
quarterback of all time.
As voted by fans.
Yes, exactly. As voted by fans on the internet.
It needs to be a giant asterisk because...
AKA troll topic to be voted on by trolls. To be trolls.
Yeah, so... It's been quite interesting. So Tyler, you've got the bracket there in front of you. So we're gonna do a quick rundown of the matchups that they've had thus far, and we're gonna kind of give our quick opinion who we would pick in that matchup and who I'm using this term very loosely. The nation decided would actually win that matchup. So Tyler, why don't you?
like ESPN polls are more
more accurate than
this.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have four brackets. So we're going to start with the right now bracket.
Right now.
We have Tom Brady versus Eli Manning.
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady.
And Brady won by 74%.
Uh-huh.
Drew Brees versus Ben Roethlisberger.
Drew Brees.
Brees won by 83%.
Easy breezy, lemon peasy.
I was going to say the exact same thing, Costa. Ugh.
Aaron Rodgers versus Phil Rivers.
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers won by 92%.
Discount double check.
Peyton Manning versus Russell Wilson.
No, I would pick Peyton Manning. Yeah, of course. Who wouldn't pick Peyton Manning?
Wilson won by 60%.
The internet has failed us all miserably.
Inflation from the recent Seahawks win.
Yeah. Rather unfair.
Remember when the Ravens won the Super Bowl last year and they had the top 100 players of 2013 last year? And one of the questions immediately was, were there were like, 5-7 Ravens last year?
6, I believe.
Yeah, like did the Super Bowl inflate the Ravens? Like,
well, of
now
course.
It's gonna, exactly, and now it's going to be the same thing with Seahawks.
Of course.
Continue, Tyler.
All right. So next up is the Generation X bracket. Joe Montana versus...
For extreme.
...versus Boomer Esiason.
Can we turn his microphone off? What was it again?
Joe Montana versus Boomer Esiason.
Montana.
Yeah, of course.
And Montana won by 98%. He has the largest margin of all the winners.
Good
As
job,
it should, yes.
Jim Kelly versus Warren Moon.
See, this was when I remember looking at that. That was a coin flip for me, but I guess you picked Jim Kelly, even though Moon had the better numbers. Kelly because he went to 4 Super Bowls.
Kelly won by 54%.
Okay.
John Elway versus Dan Fouts.
John
Elway.
Won by 90%. Dan Marino versus Phil Simms.
Dan Marino.
Won by 92%. Anyway.
Ignore our laughter.
Yeah, sorry.
Costa just made a really weird face.
Yeah.
It's an inside joke. Let's keep going.
Okay, now move on to the Millennials bracket.
This is our generation.
Brett
Favre versus Rich Gannon.
Brett Favre.
Brett Favre, based on the fact that he's
Brett Favre, yeah.
I only I've watched games with him. I haven't really seen anything with Rich Gannon.
Yeah, Rich Gannon won by 61%.
Yeah, right. I mean, Raiders Nation's they're representing in this case, but I mean, Brett Favre, he has the Super Bowl, Gannon doesn't, and Favre has all the passing records, as it stands right now.
And we're mentioning some of the possibilities afterwards.
Yeah.
Seems weird that Rodgers hasn't eclipsed him yet.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
Kurt Warner versus Donovan McNabb.
Kurt Warner. No brainer.
Yeah, it should be Warner.
But McNabb won by 62%. Steve Young versus Steve McNair.
Steve Young.
Young won by 92%.
Good job, Nation.
Yep.
Troy Aikman versus Drew Bledsoe.
Troy Aikman.
Aikman should be the winner here.
Yeah.
Bledsoe won by 63%.
Yeah.
Which is, ridiculous.
Alright, now for the Baby Boomers bracket.
Boom, boom.
Johnny Unitas versus Bob Greasy.
I want you in my room.
All right. This is this is a family show, Mike. We try and keep things PG.
Since when is this a family show? Never.
All right, so what would you say? Johnny Unitas and
Bob Greasy.
Johnny Unitas. Got to give it to the golden arm.
Yep.
Unitas.
Johnny won by 89%. Roger Staubach versus Joe Namath.
This one was another coin flip.
I'm still on the side of Namath since he led to the Jets.
It's a coin flip for me, I guess. Yeah.
But Staubach won by 57%.
Mm-hmm.
Bart Starr versus Fran Tarkenton.
Bart Starr.
Yeah, Starr.
Starr won by 71%. And finally, Terry Bradshaw versus Otto Graham.
Which makes no sense whatsoever because they play in two totally different periods of NFL history.
Filling up the bracket.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe they just did this just so that Cleveland would have someone.
I mean,
Cleveland.
Well,
they could have
thrown Bernie Kosar a bone. They could have put him. Bernie Kosar would have been more with the group of Marino and Elway and but
I'm gonna say Bradshaw.
Yeah, it's gotta be Bradshaw in this
won
case.
by 70%.
Because how many people are still living that remember Otto Graham playing football?
Yeah.
So,
not me.
so one of the big things that every time NFL does this, every time they do, they should just have a giant asterisk because every time, or at least the last two times, it's been completely, affected by fans, like either fans' dedication or just fans wanting to use bots to.
Well, that's just the internet in general.
Yeah.
I mean, when you do online polling of any kind, you sort of risk that. Now, if you're like the reason why ESPN's polls are so much more accurate is because some of them are I guess aren't as specific. I guess because it's kind of like when you poll the nation on just one thing.
Yeah.
You're
also like a smaller thing rather than this being a month long.
Yeah, I mean you're just begging to get results that if you were actually having a critical debate, it wouldn't even some of these guys wouldn't even be in the discussion.
And so from the past 2 years, I followed all these mostly because nothing else to do during the off season, and the results of these have been hilarious, and also as a personal Ravens fan, the Ravens have always managed to get up to the top because the Ravens are one of the teams that get a lot of fan support for these. The Raiders are another one, and then 49ers are probably the third big one. So there's usually those three, and then for example, last year in the greatest uniform debates, or voting rather, the Carolina Panthers alternate jerseys.
Alternate blacks.
Won over the 49ers jersey. That was the final round. And then the year before that, the great Super Bowl, the 76 Raiders won a smidgen over the 2000s Ravens.
That was the best Super Bowl team, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about the 76 Raiders were a good team and all. I mean, so were the 2000 Ravens, but I think the Ravens should have probably been up against a different team.
Yeah.
maybe a Steelers team from the 1970s.
But
Yeah.
That's true.
that's all.
Yeah, that's another whole other just debate.
So now we can move on to round 2, and we'll actually be moving on to round 3 since that finished up today. So moving on to round 2, we had Tom Brady versus Drew Brees.
I'd give it to Brady.
Brady won by 75%. Aaron Rodgers versus Russell killing Peyton Manning Wilson.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, Rodgers.
Thankfully, Aaron Rodgers won 55%.
See, I don't understand why. I mean,
why was Wilson
yeah.
even on this list? Because he
he's
just
the
recently won
most
the Super
recently
Bowl.
won the
But
Super
still,
Bowl. Yeah.
Because everyone else in the first round won the Super Bowl, except for Phillip Rivers, which I say you should just swap Phillip Rivers for Joe Flacco, and then you could at least say they all won Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Russell Wilson's way too young in the league to even be remotely.
yeah.
In the time.
I mean, he's on his way. He's on his way. Like he's off to a good start.
no,
but
maybe.
yeah.
I mean, it all depends. Of course, it all depends on if he suffers any bad injuries,
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
Right, yeah. He should not be on the list of greatest QB of all time.
But then again, like, I mean, just because Wilson's on the list is the only reason why you can make the argument for Flacco to be on the list. But Flacco's really not in the discussion yet either. But it's just like one of those things where, you know. But, yeah, but we can continue
but
on.
which of today's quarterbacks that are young are? You know, I mean, we're nowhere near to know. I mean...
Well, I'm surprised they didn't bother putting someone like Andrew Luck on there. Just
or
because.
Kaepernick.
Well, right, but see, that's what we're talking about. Yes.
It's just a bracket filler.
Luck
It's
might
just
get to, like, you know, being a Hall of Fame status. It could happen for Kaepernick,
Well, right.
but we don't know.
But guys, like I said, when we talk about
just because Russell Wilson won a Super Bowl?
It's always been what have you done most recently, and it's be a major component to winning a Super Bowl.
Which he was not.
Well, he was important. He played a decent
role. Not like the crucial role.
All right, so what do we got? So what's next in the second
one?
round?
Next we have Montana versus Kelly.
Montana
won 92%.
This is Joe Montana.
Dan Marino versus John Elway.
I'm gonna say Elway because the
Super Bowls, yeah.
But Marino won by 60%.
Yeah, I mean he's still one of the greatest quarterbacks ever, despite not having the Super Bowl.
Donovan McNabb versus Rich Gannon.
McNabb.
Yeah, I'll go with McNabb.
McNabb by 76%. Steve Young versus Drew Bledsoe.
Steve Young.
But Bledsoe won 57%.
Yeah, see this is where I really start to lose faith.
A
I mean, not that anyone should ever put faith in people on the internet to begin with, but this is where it's like all hope is lost.
Faith in humanity.
Let's be serious. Bledsoe is really well known for one thing: getting injured and letting Tom Brady get the start.
Exactly. Like
it's the Trent Green.
He was the first
Warner.
domino to fall, quite literally. The guy had his what was it, an ACL tear? I think it was a leg injury that led to him being taken out. So I mean,
honestly, all that happened at a time that I didn't really pay attention to football.
Right, but he was the domino to fall. He was quite honestly, without Drew Bledsoe, the Patriots don't win 3 Super Bowls.
Good job, Drew. Thank you.
But I will give him credit though. He was one of the quarterbacks though before it became a regular occurrence for quarterbacks to throw for like 4,000 plus yards. He was early on, like in the 90s and early 2000s. He was always like one of the few guys that did that. More than once. So continue, Tyler.
Next up, Johnny Unitas versus Roger Staubach.
Johnny U.
Unitas.
73%. And Terry Bradshaw versus Bart Starr.
Terry Bradshaw.
And Bradshaw won by 62%.
Even though that one's a coin flip. I mean, Bart Starr won the first 2 Super Bowls. I mean, but...
I was going to say Starr.
Yeah, but I think Bradshaw's got the extra ring. He won it with a great defense, though, one of the best defensive teams.
Hall of Famers all around him.
That was actually the case for a lot of the teams that won Super Bowls in the 70s and 80s.
Which was mostly the Steelers.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
For a good chunk of it, at least.
So now we're on to the third round, and this round is still open for voting.
So get this part right, Internet.
Come on, we're counting on you.
It goes to April 1st. So on April 1st, they'll release their final 4.
April Fools. Cam Newton's the greatest quarterback of all time.
No, I thought if it was April Fool's, you'd say something like Ryan Leaf. Like Ryan Leaf's the greatest or like Kyle
Ryan
Bowler
Leaf.
or something.
Yes.
Like
Oh yes.
Trent
Kyle
Dilfer,
Bowler.
he won a Super Bowl. Why ain't he on this list?
that. Exactly.
All right,
Yeah.
so we have Brady versus Rodgers,
Gotta give it to Brady.
Montana
Yeah.
versus Marino,
Montana.
But
Yeah.
Donovan McNabb versus Drew Bledsoe,
I'd give McNabb, yeah.
and Johnny Unitas versus Terry Bradshaw.
Johnny
Old
Unitas.
Baltimore versus
Unitas.
Steelers.
Yeah,
Once again.
I mean, Unitas. Like I said, Unitas was like he revolutionized the quarterback position
We'll
in
be
his day.
forever entwined, Baltimore and Pittsburgh.
Unitas is literally the reason why quarterbacks are an important position. Otherwise, it would be running backs making $25 million a year in the NFL if not for Johnny Unitas. So
Compared to them actually going down recently.
yeah, I mean, so it's an interesting debate. You know, granted, like these types of conversations are far more interesting. We're actually discussing them. We don't actually have hard numbers because this is all opinion based. You know, but when you look at the numbers
Everything
and
I say
statistics,
is fact, man. What are you talking about?
Mike is just completely infallible. Everything he says is
Absolutely.
absolute truth.
That's the only thing I speak.
So
is
yes,
the truth.
next week we'll probably do an update on this and tell you
Yeah,
if you guys did,
and-
if they did good.
Yeah, we'll tell the internet that
Otherwise, we're
tell the
yelling
entire
too.
internet that they're wrong. Yeah, exactly. So that wraps up our second episode of Intentional Grounding.
Yay!
Yeah, exactly. So,
So 2, baby.
yeah,
It only gets better from here. I swear.
yeah. That's the plan. That will continue to get better. So, thank you so much for tuning in. And before we go, be sure to check us out on Twitter. Follow us, like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube if you've liked our podcast thus far, and if you want to listen to all of our future releases every week. And once again, thank you for listening, and we look forward to talking with you guys next week. See ya.
Stay tuned.